Episode 25 is appropriately titled, Start the New Game! Emu wonders where Poppy has gone, though there's no time to search, as bugsters begin to attack a civilian. But... luckily, Poppy People Papa is here to give us a tutorial, while Taiga and Nico watch a commercial for this new game. Kamen Rider Chronicles is a video game where civilians transform into ride players to fight against the bugsters and gather gacha trophies to reach the final boss. The Kamen Rider themselves are also special enemies that drop items when defeated. ProtoDubs joins in on the fun and fights the ride players himself. However, Poppy makes another announcement. Every player only has one life, so defeat results in a game over. You die in the game, you die in real life. ProtoDubs explains that Kamen Rider Chronicle isn't really a game where humans defeat bugsters. It's a game where bugsters defeat people. For Poppy's hard work as the game's mascot, Ren gives her a present, a green bug visor. Alright, this is a pretty good episode. The setup for this arc of Kamen Rider is something that can only be seen at this point of the story. Sure, this could make for an action-packed first episode, but the build-up and the time we spent with these characters are what make each reveal special. This episode is actually a big argument against Kamen Rider having less episodes. If this were even, let's say, episode 12, then I think the impact would still be big, but not as big. Even though I complained about the episodic formula, those are important for characterization and give extra time to care about our cast. Speaking of which, we're getting to one of my favorite moments of the show. Emu tries to save a ride player from a bugster, but then Poppy arrives, saying that this is against the rules. So their Poppy People penalty is disqualification.
Henshin.
This is Kamen Rider Poppy, and her stats are better than Gaim Kiwami. Don't look into Rider stats, they're straight up nonsense. Emu tries to get through to Poppy, but ProtoDubs says her memories have been reset. She's a bugster like all the others, and bugsters just want to live. Game villains are defeated by players as a way to relieve stress and live out a power fantasy. So what's the difference when bugsters are the ones who were villainized in the first place? This is why ProtoDubs wanted to continue Kamen Rider Chronicle, for bugsters to be able to fight back fairly, and also to see if humans are worthy enough to continue living. Okay, I was kinda with that up until that last part. It seemed kinda weird. The writers and the Ministry of Health send warnings to the public to not play Kamen Rider Chronicle, or else they'll die. Ren then makes his own announcement. Once the final boss is defeated, all the game-overed players will return, so even you can go out and be a hero. This makes Nico want to start playing, so she goes out and tries the game herself.
Game start. Nico, stand down.
Technically, she's not a Kamen Rider, as ride players don't have that title. They're more in the category of pseudo-riders or ride troopers. Either way, she's able to defeat a bugster with a very cute finisher, and she receives a gacha trophy. Taiga starts to show some care for Nico and is upset that she's putting herself in danger, to which Nico fires back since Taiga never really showed any feelings before this. And it's true. Nico just showed up one day and latched onto Taiga, so he'd never had a reason to care. Heck, the other characters just seem to be as annoyed that Nico won't go away. Emu helped cure Nico of her game illness, and that was that to them. Nico continued to stick around, in a story way. During my first watch of Xaid, I was whatever about Nico. Like, I enjoyed her enough, I guess, but yeah, she did kind of annoy me, and it didn't really seem like she did anything in the grand scheme of things. Maybe she had a good line or two, though, again, that was basically it. But this episode made me realize that Nico is more than just some rando. She stuck with Taiga, but she understood what it meant to be an outsider. Heh. She wanted to help Taiga as much as he helped her. Nico wanted the chance to do something with the Doctor Riders, so she went out and fought. She fought and received a gacha trophy, but instead of getting the respect she deserves, Taiga berates her. The exact opposite reaction anyone would expect, as Nico did something that would help them all out. During a fight with Ren, who turns out to be the Lovelica bugster, Nico pushes Taiga away the same way he did to her. But now, Taiga understands. Taiga lost everything. Yet, Nico still chose him to be her doctor. Just like all the writers before him, Taiga will carry this tragedy, this burden, and fight not only for her, but for humanity. Hey, I'm just saying this would have been a really cool moment to give him a power-up or something. Not that he needed it, but it would have been nice. Anyway, Poppy watches Taiga and Nico have their moment, and it seems like her old self is coming to the surface. Emu noticed something within Poppy, and uses Maximum Mighty to reprogram her to how she was before. But ProtoDubs takes Poppy with him. Poppy sees a vision of a hospital and a woman. She's confused and not sure what to do. She's been fighting alongside humans for so long, and she was the one who said not all bugsters are bad. During a reluctant moment, Poppy starts to cry. She doesn't want to fight anymore. The woman from her vision was someone Poppy took over with the virus. So Poppy has always been humanity's enemy from the beginning. Emu won't accept that conclusion, and argues with her. They're friends. They always will be. With Poppy back on the doctor's side, ProtoDubs has had enough, and reveals one more secret about Emu. ProtoDubs goes into his virus form, and goes inside Emu. Wait a minute. And goes inside Emu. I could have reworded that differently. And he enters okay, whatever. And he goes inside Emu, revealing that the Genius Gamer M persona has been ProtoDubs the whole time. A young Emu wanted someone to play games with, so his desire for a friend grew from the Bugster virus. ProtoDubs is part of Emu. Always has been. The Orange Mighty Brother was him. Sort of. I mean, he is, but okay, I can't really wrap my head around that, so we'll just say he is, because that's what Toei says. Emu's had enough and fights ProtoDubs using a finisher, but that's exactly what ProtoDubs wanted. Now he's reprogrammed and can use a gamer driver. With it and the Gashat Gear duel, he becomes Kamen Rider Paradox, level 99. Now that's a cool suit. Meanwhile, Poppy follows her visions of the hospital and finds a room with a chest inside holding a level 0 Mighty Action X. The next fight with ProtoDubs includes a special guest, the Game Master himself. But he's defeated easily. Luckily, he has 98 more lives. In a twist pretty much everyone saw coming, Dan Kuroto has returned from the dead, all with Poppy's help. And by using the level 0 Gashat. Yep, he sure is back. He sure is. Oh, thank God, we can just put him in that corner. Speaking of God, he's now calling himself Shin Dan Kuroto, which could translate to God Dan Kuroto. He also has the best joke in the show.
Kuroto, apologize. I'm only somewhat sorry.
With Kuroto's help, he's able to level down ProtoDubs, which is actually a really cool idea. He rarely does it though. One cool episode about friendship later, and Kuroto gives Team X8 presents.
For Taiga, your very own toy. For Goofy's son, aside from beating Chibi Wars 4, you can bring someone back by using their Proto-Gashat.
Huh, Proto-Gashat. I get it, cause my voice actor.
For Emo, a half-eaten Do-Re-Mi-Fa beat.
Now I don't have to play Poppy's arcade game!
What about me, you
Lost Child says what?
You're still a mama's boy. Num.
Oh man, we just went through so much of this story. Reminds me of the good old days when I just summarized the shows and nothing else. Almost like it was over an hour and a half ago. Over an hour and a half ago? Oh my gosh. I think I need to take a pause or something. What the? Masamune Dan? He got out of prison and is back as Genom Corp's CEO, like he was a long time ago. But now, things are gonna go differently. Masamune Dan has become Kamen Rider Cronus. With this power, he can pause time. And kills Ren. Okay, this is gonna be a bit awkward. I don't know how to continue from here for reasons I'll explain later, so we'll just talk about a special here. 5 years ago, Taiga was a radiologist for Seito University Hospital and worked alongside Jiro Maki. Together, they were able to help a patient, but Taiga finds something they've never seen before, the Bugster virus. Papi, or rather, Asuna, tells Kuroto of Taiga's fighting skills, so he was chosen to become a Kamen Rider. Taiga is hesitant, so Maki takes a gamer driver himself and attempts to use it. Taiga takes matters into his own hands and faces his next patient who's infected with the Bugster virus. This is Saki Momose. She puts her complete trust that Taiga will cure her, but that trust dies out as Taiga fails in his mission, and Saki succumbs to the virus. From her, Graphite is born, a living mark that Taiga couldn't save his patient, and to leave an even more permanent mark, Taiga's hair turns white. To make matters worse, and more personal, Saki was Hiro's girlfriend. Due to these events, Taiga loses his doctor license, and will have to continue living knowing that Graphite is out there, taunting him while Hiiro shuns him. All of this was told in Kamen Rider Snipe Episode 0, a 4-episode miniseries explaining Taiga's backstory. I'm gonna make this sound weirder than it should be. I like this miniseries, even though it could have been told in the main show. A couple of clips appear in the show from episode 0, and that's a good way to do it. You can start and end there when it comes to telling Taiga's story, though it is nice that we do have a good amount of side content. And see, that's why I don't mind the Trick series, since it fills in small holes from the main show, but you don't have to watch them to get the full experience. Yes, it would be nice to get the expanded explanation in the main show, but what we do get is good too. Plus the other explanations like how Taiga got his white hair are exclusive to this. Also exclusive is Bang Bang Tank. Bam Bam Tank! And the only toy of it available in real life for a time was just a keychain. Then years later, we finally got a full-on DX release, with new art to show how the armor would have looked like. As another fun thing I want to show, which I don't normally, is this fan art of a theoretical Snipe final form called Bang Bang Western. This has just always stuck out in my mind with how creative it is, and how badly I wish it was real. Anyway, episode 0 is definitely going into the watch if curious pile. I liked it enough, but you can skip it. Unless you want to just watch it for the new intro focusing on Snipe, cause that looks cool. To keep the narrative going smoothly, I skip out on details or reveal certain things later. Saki being Hiro's girlfriend was revealed basically as soon as Graphite debuted, and Masamune was using Saki's revival as a way to coerce Hiiro into joining his side. To me, waiting for a reveal like this feels a bit more impactful if saved for a little bit. Plus, if you've already watched the show, then you'd already be as excited as I am to tell the story. Basically, with so much going on after the first arc, I had to keep things consistent and a little less confusing. Trust me, the shows are about 50 episodes long with tons of specials and movies, so I'm just trying to make it all cohesive. That's one reason why I paused when Kronos appeared, and also because the story just kinda stops there for a little while, which I'll explain in a bit. You'll see what I mean after we talk about another trick with Kamen Rider Lazer.
念のために言っとくけど、嘘じゃないからな。
I hope I don't see anyone I know.
What's up, Cake Man? I'm a helpful NPC.
Do I win if I kill you?
Actually, you have to gather the 15 plot MacGuffins, defeat Sephiroth, and travel the 9 realms all before the dawn of the 3rd day. Ah!
Team X8 go through Kiriya's laptop and have to complete a game to, I don't know why. This is probably one of the most entertaining pieces of X8 side content, just by this single part alone.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
Now that I think about it, this is probably the closest we get to an actual game concept within the show, outside of Kamen Rider Chronicles Battle Royale, of course. This game is an RPG, so we see Emu going through it like you would an actual game of the genre. By the end, we have Emu and Game Kiriya finally get him, and Emu receives the ugliest suit in the show by the power of ProtoDubs Bike. Game Genmu is defeated and Kiriya runs off with the Proto-Gashats. Yeah, that's about it. Not really too much to say other than it's entertaining and I recommend it just because it's that fun. In the after credits, an untransformed Kiriya is holding ProtoDubs Bike and prepares for what's to come. The Kamen Rider Chronicle arc ends at about episode 40, with the last 4 episodes of the show being called the Gamedeus Advent arc. We've more or less reached the end here, with only a few major points to go through, which might seem kind of bad on the surface. This last stretch of episodes are the team figuring out how to stop Kronos, but he seemingly just keeps getting stronger every second. Kamen Rider Build, the next season, has a similar issue in its last arc where the main villain just keeps getting beaten by our heroes and it does get stale after a while. It's a trope that's been around tokusatsu forever. You could even say that episodic shows, in their most basic sense, are this same formula. As much as I've been talking about formulas within Ex-Aid, it's the execution that matters the most, and I brought up how the characters and their stories are told very well. So let's get back around to Hiiro. In episode 34, the Doctor Writers ask Masamune for their games back. He says no. Bluntness aside, Masamune seems to have our heroes cornered. He's a no-nonsense villain and only cares for his own plan, as he calls characters by their gashat names, like Kuroto, his son, only being called Dangerous Zombie. It's kind of funny out of context, but I think it adds a lot to the character. Now that he's back as CEO, Masamune is getting a lot of his power back. Not physically, but by simply doing what he pleases without anyone being able to stop him, since it's all within guidelines and rules. As a taste of Masamune's power of words, he's able to get through to Hiiro by promising his innermost desire. A woman that Hiiro knows. The same woman who Taiga failed to save from the Bugster virus, and who Graphite evolved from. Saki, his old girlfriend, who died from the virus. And her final words were, to shake up Team Ex-Aid even more, Masamune shows that he has another trick up his sleeve, as proven by the ability to revive someone else, Kujo Kiriya. As stated in MOOC 284, Kiriya originally was not planned to return, but his character was popular enough to revive him. He was going to be reintroduced a lot earlier, but other power-ups and riders were given priority. On one hand, I understand how this can feel like a cop-out with no stakes if characters are able to just be brought back with zero consequences. Except, there are consequences. Don't forget, it was also a main theme from Kamen Rider Ghost. You can die this many times, but regardless, there will be consequences. Kuroto has an open god complex now, and despite having the same goal as our heroes, his shenanigans aren't taken lightly. He's even in a bug visor prison that you could have bought off Premium Bandai, and that is a fate worse than death. Kiriya coming back was in part due to Masamune's hubris, thinking nothing can go wrong with his plan, especially now that Parado is joining Team Ex-Aid. Story reasoning aside, Kiriya's absence still left an impact in the movies, special, and when Emu made Mighty Maximum X, all of which could have only been this important by Kiriya. It wouldn't feel the same or have a similar impact if it was anyone else. Well, maybe Poppy, but that's for another time. This is why his return is so important, because it was important that he was gone in the first place. Plus, Kiriya got a cool rider form in Lazer Turbo, and for some reason Toei counts this as a separate rider. I have no idea why. Anyway, he's not the only one, as Masamune gives Hiiro a familiar-looking gashat. The Doctor Riders seem lost as Kronos is about to unleash his powers to the public, taking down every ride player. Until Kuroto unveils a secret project. Why is he holding it like that? In a battle where Masamune pauses time, Kuroto uses his new game, making him invincible to the freeze, for about 10 seconds, which most of the time he spent laughing. The next battle in the same episode has Kiriya steal the new game, almost giving the win to Masamune. But Kiriya throws it to Emu. After Kronos gets wrecked.
Pause.
Okay, let's pause here. I originally, in my script and while editing, had zero intention to talk about this, but after editing and putting all this together, I feel like that's an injustice to how amazing both this moment and the suit are. I think it comes at the perfect point in the story, especially since this is one of the latest forms we've gotten, since most of the Heisei final forms come at around episode 32. And Hypermuteki just encapsulates a lot of the feelings I have for these characters, both helping out and wanting to do more with each other. Parado, Kiriya helping out, and Kuroto, of course, being its creator of the game, while also including Emu into it. I think that's just really cool, having all these characters. But most of all, that suit, to me, is phenomenal. I love the gold. And it might be a bit too shiny even for me, but the gold and that long hair and oh my gosh, it's so clean looking. I love this. But most of all, the jingle is fantastic. I could hum that all day. It is so good. I love Hypermuteki. And it was crazy that I was not going to say anything about it, but then I saw this comment saying, I can't wait to see what Marco says about this. And you know what? After editing it, yes, I had to say that this is such an incredible moment, an incredible suit. I love Hypermuteki. I love this moment in the story. It's perfect. You know what? Every moment of it, perfect. Okay, back to the show. After Kronos gets wrecked, Kiriya is welcomed back into Team Ex-Aid, reluctantly accepting the teamwork with Kuroto. Hiiro uses Title Legacy in episode 37. That's cool. And then he loses Saki forever, until the movie.
My girlfriend is dead. And I've learned to live with that.
Parado fully joins Team Ex-Aid in episode 38, after Emu gives him PTSD.
Getting into that car accident so many years ago was the most scared I've ever been.
Holy shit, is that a car?
We'll continue this next time.
There is no next time for you!
Even though I'm going through this quickly, the Gamedeus Advent arc is actually what I would want for the end game of a writer show. You've probably thought this, or heard others say, or heard me say, that the Kamen Rider series tend to have too many episodes. Even though Ex-Aid has less episodes than usual, I still feel like it's too much. Well, maybe it's not that there's quote-unquote too much, but rather what's being done in the overall show. Here, I like the arc because I can actually remember what happens episode by episode, which is how I describe them. 32. Kronos arrives. 33. Hiiro decides to join Masamune. 34. Lazer Turbo arrives. 35. Kiriya and Emu fight. 36. Hypermuteki. 37. Tato Legacy and Hiiro lets Taiga be hospitalized. 38. Hiiro's okay with his girlfriend being dead. 39. Emu gives Parado PTSD. That's already more than I can normally remember in a row for a string of episodes, and the character moments are still there. If not just the characters, then the set pieces are fantastic. I really like the clock behind Masamune, that just looks great. Episode 40 has one of my favorite moments, when Emu and Parado fight Kronos together and give a fist bump. But I will admit, even if I can remember how the episodes go, it does drag a bit, and this might sound insane. I think it's because Masamune is too involved. You know how in, for example, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, Rita and Zed send down their monsters and don't fight the Rangers themselves? Those monsters are part of a bigger threat. We don't have to see the main villains fight, because they're commanding enough that their presence alone is what makes them threatening. Here, we see Masamune constantly lose, and then he says, wait, there's more, and that can get old really quickly. Even if it's not a physical loss, as in, even if he doesn't lose a one-on-one fight, we see his plan fail every other episode. Hiiro and Kiriya defect from his side. Masamune loses to Hypermuteki. Masamune to Emu and Parado. Masamune loses to the power of Kiriya and Kuroto's gamer medicine. To me, Masamune just isn't threatening anymore. He's kind of like an annoying Australian guy who won't leave the writers alone at this point. And he's not even the only one. In episode 40, we see him call up some guy named Johnny about a gamer driver. Like, how many plans does Masamune have? Doesn't he get bored? Doesn't he have a job? Graphite also dies in episode 41. Whoops. More importantly, that episode reveals what Masamune has been building up towards. All of Kuroto's plans, all of the ride players, all of Conrider Chronicle and the Bugsters have led to the arrival of Gamedeus. A virus is spread citywide, and thanks to Kiriya and Kuroto's Dr. Mighty XX, the people are cured. So now Kuroto also announces that he wants to be called Shin Dan Kuroto. No, wait, Dan Kuroto shit. Wait, okay, it's really important to know where the Shin is. I think if it's, I don't know anymore. Taiga transforms into Conrider Chronos in episode 43. I know I said that in a really monotone way, but it's really neat, I promise. But now, we reach the last two episodes. In episode 44, Last Smile, we see a combined Chronos and Gamedeus infecting people. Again. So the riders are out defeating Bugsters, but Kuroto comes across something, or someone, rather strange. The Bugster virus has evolved too strongly at this point, and Dr. Mighty XX would not be able to reach every infected person out there. Poppy grabs the Gashat, and releases herself with it. Poppy died. Aw, the riders are level 1 again to fight Gamedeus. That's cute. Parado dies too. Now with Poppy, Parado, and Gamedeus gone, Masamune is desperate and the riders prepare for the final battle. Episode 45, Endless Game. After remaking the intro visuals, Emu and Masamune have one final rider kick, and Masamune is defeated. I'm sure we'll never see him again. Afterwards, we're told there are remnants of the Bugster virus, but that allows for Kiriya to work for Genom Corporation, which is now under Sukuru, who we met during the Burgermon episode. Funnily enough, Nico is able to buy stocks into Genom Corporation, and Taiga is able to open a legal clinic specifically for the Bugster virus. Not everything is as good as it can be, since during a press conference, Emu says Conrider Chronicle is over, but the people lost to it still haven't returned. However, they will continue to keep fighting, no matter how long it takes. After finishing up some work, Emu overhears some familiar voices. Kuroto is able to revive Poppy through the power of friendship, and Parado by, more friendship, I think. And finally, Kuroto is making a new Gashat, one with data from the mysterious rider he fought earlier, the Kamen Rider build Gashat.
Kamen Rider Build! Hi! こちら電脳救命センター。
Even though we've gone over several specials and movies already, that's only scratching the surface, as so much more was released after X8 proper ended. But we should probably talk more about the actual show itself. As I always say, your timeline is most likely different than mine, so experiences may vary. Though in my personal feeds, X8 is one of the writer shows I've seen talked about the most online, whether that's through general conversation, memes, fan-made content, and so on. Of course, it's not just in Western circles, as Tokusatsu still goes strong in places like Brazil and South America. I do tend to lurk on other sites, especially when it's time to research for these shows. All that in place, I've never seen a show be talked about as much as X8 has, even to this day. Popularity polls on social media, threads, and like I said, the plethora of fan art. If you don't like the show, it's still hard to deny that X8 has become so well loved. It goes beyond a fan base, as it's also put into mind when working on future seasons. I've already praised the show in general, but to go into specifics, I think the characters are what really make this show special. Well, not to say the story is bad. It seems a bit complicated on the surface with all those name drops and dates, but Kamen Rider has been the same at its core. Good versus evil told in a drama style. X8 has the visuals and idea of a doctor drama, especially in its second half, but it's still gonna be Kamen Rider at the end of the day. These are meant for kids, so the story is not gonna be that overly complex. It's probably the least I can say, since the characters really are the best part to me, and I think one of the main reasons why X8 is so loved. This is the one show that, to me, has the most obvious and visual growth. You could interpret that as a good or bad thing if you want, but it's being said now, and probably forever. X8 has a great cast of characters. I can see their growth very easily through the simplicity of their level up system. Most of the riders can start at level 1, then gradually build up to level 100 and beyond. Except for Taiga, or Rip Taiga. But power-ups aren't everything. The growth that matters the most are through themselves as people. Insert Emu here. Each character has these quirks that make them iconic, or at the very least, memorable. Emu is clumsy and has a couple catchphrases. I'll clear this game with no continues, or a variant on it about his patience. Hiiro loves sweets, and often has a line like, "To you, I'll say no thank you." Taiga, oh my gosh, he says bang sometimes, I think. He also does these sarcastic quotations with his hands, which is cool, but I really don't remember it that much. And Kiriya, I just have to say his kick, and you understand how cool it is. As the story continues, their quirks start becoming less and less noticeable when you learn more about them. Like how Hiiro didn't actually like sweets at first, but Saki made pastries for him, and after she disappeared, he began to eat out of make your interpretation here. Of course, our core writers would have the most focus in the first half, though a few get more of the spotlight than others in the second half. The most obvious character to talk about is Hiiro, who is also the obvious choice in getting any development at all. A stern and cold character can say the same and still be loved, but Hiiro evolving into someone who learns to care on the outside is even better. He brushed off a lot at first, mostly to hide any true feelings, so when confronted with his past, his choices of joining Masamune and then realizing that Hiiro himself has been kind of a dick, all adds up to a great character arc. Hiiro's girlfriend is dead, and he's okay with that. Kiriya has some good focus too, though I wouldn't say it's as in-depth as anyone else outside of Hiiro. Acceptance is one story arc, and learning to trust is another. Kiriya has been a liar from the start for several reasons, mainly to hide his feelings once again. Then he learns to trust in Emu, and accept him as something that he's been needing for a while. A friend he can count on. Yeah, maybe bringing him back may not have been the best idea to some, but his character and personality are so good that I was more than happy to see him again. Taiga has a mix of the two, learning to accept his past mistakes when losing Saki, and accepting friends he trusts in the others, mainly with Nico. Admittedly, I'm not super into Taiga's arc, as you may have noticed, and to me, it kind of seems like the show doesn't really want to notice either. And, you know, he doesn't even get anything new past Bang Bang Simulations aside from the Chronicle form that Kronos already had. See, I want to like him, but the show makes it hard to when he's kind of just hanging around. Nico at least collects the gacha trophies off screen, meanwhile Taiga's, I don't know. He does get some great scenes, like when he starts to see Nico being a real patient to him, as well as someone he should care about, or the bond he and Hiiro grow to have basically as complete opposites. Maybe one of the changes I'd want to have is a Snipe miniseries in the main show, since it would add a lot more to his character in a smaller scope. Nico as a whole isn't really a big problem for me. If anything, my only issue here is that I see her paired too much with Taiga, and at that point, Nico is also just kinda there. The duo that are kinda there. Again, nothing inherently wrong with either character, they're just in a cast of already great people, so it seems a little smaller in the scope. You might have seen some similarities between Taiga and a manga called Blackjack, whether it's the similar visuals of the hair or their backstories of being former doctors. Was this an homage? Did someone just really like the manga? Toei said it was just a coincidence. Now if you want someone I actually don't like, it would be Masamune. For one, I'm not a fan of final villains that come out of nowhere. I've seen that way too much in Final Fantasy. Which, this could be a reference to? Oh, no, wait, no, I won't go that far. I know he appeared like once or twice before he became Kronos, but he wasn't really planned to be the final boss at that point. It was a suggestion, though not concrete. On one hand, I really like Kamen Rider Kronos' design. Green does seem like a timely color, and that helmet is so good. Almost scary with those black pupils. Plus, I'm a sucker for long coats on riders. And a confession you've probably already noticed, he's officially called Kamen Rider Kronos, named after the Greek word for time. It's closer to Kronos than Kronos, but I play Smite and I'm used to saying Kronos. That was basically the only Greek connection since the designer focused more on being a direct foil to Ex-Aid. Even if I don't like Masamune, the design might make up for that. And I also get it. Masamune isn't meant to be a complex character with a tragic backstory. He's an old man that wants to take over the world with video games. I know I like Masamune more if it wasn't for how dragged out the final arc seemed to be, and I already went over that, so you get my point. However, he does push characters along for their arcs. You could even say he's the main reason for more development, reviving Saki and Kiriya, second-handedly causing Taiga to be hospitalized. He's basically the reason Kuroto's the way he is, and all his other evil plots. I think that just makes him more confusing. I don't like him, but I do like him. Again, make your own interpretation here. Now on the other side of Masamune is his son, Dan Kuroto. If there's one character that's memorable and an icon, it's Dan Kuroto, for better and for worse. Doesn't it seem like everyone has an opinion on Kuroto online? He was better in the first half. His character was changed so drastically. He's really annoying. He's really funny. He's the worst character in the show. He's weird. He's cool. I've heard everything I could about him. So, what do I think? He's fine. Yeah, nothing major. I don't think he's annoying. I think he's a good part of the team. His God Complex quirk is definitely memorable, but overall, he's fine. First half Kuroto is kind of boring. Not as much as Taiga, but he came off as a generic villain until his backstory revealed to Emu. That's when his crazy side really started to show. Before that, he was a lot like his dad. Very good design with Kamen Rider Genmu, he pushed characters forward, but nothing that I was that into. His Genmu Corp CEO persona was way too serious for me, and I get that's the point, but in a world of colorful video games, I was expecting someone more wacky. Then, second half Kuroto is great, cause he has an actual personality. His God Complex is wacky, and was starting to show a bit, but then he got killed off by Parado. That side of him was fully let out when Kuroto came back, and it was great. I get that he may be a bit much for some, since he is loud and very in your face later, but with all my years of watching Toku, I can get through it just fine. It helps that Kuroto starts to get as much focus as Hiiro too. Not exactly story-wise, but in a way that he contributes to the team, either by creating new power-ups, or even making the plans to stop Parado and Masamune. To me, he's at his best when he gets humbled, or at least takes things seriously during the second half. I know that sounds counterintuitive to what I just said about him being boring at first, but it's a balancing act. If he can be serious during his loud outbursts because he's told to cool it, then that makes him more interesting. In one episode that I didn't bring up, Poppy starts to realize where she comes from after saving Kuroto. The two are more closely linked than expected, because Poppy is a bugster that was part of Kuroto's mom. Shortly after, when Poppy gets into trouble, Kuroto knows it's time to get serious and fights alongside Emu to protect those they care about. They're very good scenes that I think should have stuck with Kuroto, but I'll leave those grievances for the movies. Or not. You could think about it the way you want to. Here's a fun bit of trivia you might have known. Kuroto was planned to be a cool character and stay relatively the same as he was in the first arc. But once Takahashi saw Tetsuya Iwanaga's performance, Kuroto was written to be more as he is now. And he also gives figures of himself to American celebrities. Maybe the funniest bit about it all is despite everything Kuroto went through with the cast, he's still a villain. He still has evil plots and only agrees to team up with the doctors because Masamune is in the way of his plans. I personally don't think he should have went this route, but it's kind of funny and I more or less accept his villainous roots. While on the topic of villains, I've been saying first half and second half, but I really should be saying thirds, since that's how X8 feels in terms of story. Officially, it's split up even further, but for simplicity here, we can say the first third is against Kuroto, the last third is against Masamune, and the second third is versus Parado and his main group of bugsters. Parado is my favorite of the villains, almost by default, since he's the most fleshed out and has the most understandable motives, without the tragic backstory. To me, it feels like Parado, and to an extent Graphite, had plenty to do from the start, as Graphite was more in the forefront of fights and plots, while Parado was planning his next moves with Kuroto, while also getting involved with Emu. You can see how Parado is still a big part of the story after that, since I did bring him up a lot in the recap, so I won't go too much further. I just like Parado a lot, but Poppy is my favorite character. Were you expecting more? How about some fun facts? Ruka Matsuda says Poppy was based off Arale Norimaki from Dr. Slump and Hatsune Miku. You better write that down, Kamen Rider Wiki. And if you want a source, then there's a direct interview with her from Toei Hero Max Volume 54. Poppy and Asuna were also meant to be two different characters at first, with Poppy planned to be killed off later. More permanently, at least. They were described as a double heroine similar to the Tachibana sisters from Hibiki. Wow, lots of Hibiki this video, huh? But Takahashi thought it would be better to have them be the same person. And now for Emu. Okay, I think that's everyone. Oh my gosh, that was so much. Did I say enough? Good, because we still got a long while before we're done. My mic is peaking. Let me turn this down. We still got so much more to go, guys. You have no idea. I think there might be an extra hour just to talk about everything else that I didn't go over. Kind of. We do have a true ending as we take a look at the summer movie, Kamen Rider X8, True Ending. Soon after Masamune and Kamen Rider Chronicle are defeated, a new threat emerges. Ninja players that we never see again attack the hospital, led by Kagenari Nagumo, also known as Kamen Rider Fuma. The Doctor Riders fail to stop him. Poppy wakes up in a dream? Most of the people in the hospital are in a coma, but this isn't due to the Bugster virus, so it's up to Emu and friends to take on Fuma and a rival company behind the crisis, Machina Vision. This is one of my favorite Kamen Rider movies. Top 3. The setup for a standalone story about acceptance, a main point in the show, is told very well. The action is fantastic, and the set pieces are phenomenal. I understand that the whole movie could actually be seen as basic, but I think combined with X8's themes and its characters and execution, the movie is put together very well. Maybe not as a quote-unquote true ending for the entire show, but it is very good. Remember that one guy who appeared alongside Masamune in the main show? He's the big villain here, known as Johnny Maxima, the CEO of Machina Vision. He's presented as this larger-than-life character who loves Japan, but doesn't know how to spell. I think there's social commentary in there somewhere. And below him is Kagenari, one of my favorite writer villains ever. If there was any character deserving of a tragic backstory, it's him. For some overall positives in the movie, the gaming aspect plays a big part. The dream the characters are in is actually a virtual world made specifically for a patient named Madoka. Poppy and Emu were taking care of her in the beginning, but she's the main reason for the crisis. She doesn't want to leave the game world, because her condition was getting worse in the real world. Kagenari wanted to keep Madoka safe, but understands that leaving her locked in a dream isn't right. He wanted his daughter, Madoka, to be okay. To make it even worse, Madoka didn't really want to stay in the game for herself. She wanted to stay to make her dad happy. Oh man, that just pulls at your heartstrings. To fight Kagenari, Kuroto creates the Genom VR. Or rather, he just spray painted a PlayStation VR set. With it, Emu enters the game world and uses Mighty Creator VRX. The battle between Emu and Fuma was made into an actual VR experience, and it was really cool seeing it up close. It took a lot just to get it to work, and I don't have proof of it, but I did it. Wasn't worth the hassle, but it's amazing that this exists at all. As the writers begin to wake up in the real world, Kuroto gets down to his last life. So now our writers team up to fight the final boss, Johnny Maxima, as another Gamedeus. Check out this amazing transformation into Hyper Muteki. And Johnny Maxima is defeated. This is such a great movie. I can't really put my love into words. I love True Ending.
That's in a part of you, Shin Kuroto.
1 year later, Parado and Emu are called to fight some bugsters. Then a familiar but new Kamen Rider appears. Unfortunately, not for a good reason, as this rider steals Parado away. As always, I don't really go over future crossovers until their respective season. Please note that I said crossover. That's the main reason why I won't be going over Outsiders or the President Special in this X8 video despite seeing old characters. I will at least bring up some plot important stuff that has to do with Heisei Generation's Final, the crossover between X8 and Kamen Rider Build. In terms of X8, there isn't too much that carries over aside from Parado returning to Emu. Even then, you could absolutely watch True Ending and follow the movies since, well, of course Parado is going to be back. And as stated, I will go over the movie in more detail when I get to History of Kamen Rider Build in, 2 years from now. Oh, and Kuroto does use the Build Gashat in this movie. Okay, that should be everything from X8 proper. Are we good? I'm peeking my mic, so we should be good. Good? Okay, next up, oh wait, there's another special. A big bugster lingers and promises to change his fate. So Papi appears to welcome us as Emu transforms. Afterwards, Emu says today is a special day. He asks Sukuru, the new Genom Corp CEO, if he could make a game just for Papi, a VR game called Kamen Rider Carnival. But it's filled with bugsters, so it's up to the Doctor Riders, plus Nico as Snipe, to fight them. This is Kamen Rider X8 Final Stage, the promised Do-Re-Mi-Fa beat. You know what? At this point, I probably should be including stage shows permanently into these videos. Anyway, I like this one. It's like a special episode that's meant purely for fun. The Emu Papi interactions are super cute. Snipe Nico makes me wish Nico was actually a writer in the show, and just look at how the crowd cheers seeing down Kuroto. Plus, Burgermon. It also uses Go Riders OST for some reason. There isn't too much to say here, at least from my end, but it's entertaining enough and certainly has its moments. The biggest thing I can point out here is the new Gamedeus Muteki that looks absolutely gorgeous. And that final henshin with most of the riders is just great. You can very easily skip this one. I'm not even going to tell you that you should watch it, but hey, it's fun. Let's play some Do-Re-Mi-Fa beat. Kuroto invites Emu and Parado to play a new game to rescue Papi. Together, they go through a mansion and try to solve puzzles. Their last puzzle involves a bugster from the Pac-Man movie, and with their answers combined from the previous riddles, they deliver a Sankyu blow and defeat him. However, Papi isn't here, and as it turns out, Kuroto isn't either. This is probably the shortest of the specials to go over since it really is just that simple. It's meant to be a setup for future events. Really, that story point only being that Kuroto is gone. I will say the Knockout Fighter 2 Gashat is pretty cool. Though I kinda wish it was more of the perfect puzzle too. Now that Kuroto is gone, what is he up to? Let's find out in the finale with another ending trilogy. Is what I would say, but we have so much more to get to first. There's one thing I've been omitting, and I barely even brought it up, the music. Just like the show itself, there are a lot of vocal insert themes, probably more than ever, and each are very good. Plus the movie themes and variations of the opening theme, which we should get to first. Daichi Miura is a big name in Japanese music. I've even heard of him long before X-Aid. He's known to make his own elaborate choreography for stage performances and music videos, so it was a pretty big deal to get him to perform for Kamen Rider. I don't like X-Aid though. That aside, the lyrics are really good. Like just these opening lines. I don't want to know if the truth is disappointing. I don't want to know, ignorance is bliss. Before I knew it, I came too far. Yeah, it does come off kinda like a I'm 14 and this is deep, but I really like this. The chorus is good and very catchy. The part with 1, 2, 3. It's just the verses that I don't personally vibe with. A cool fun fact is that the second verse and chorus are used for the Snipe miniseries. And of course, I always have to bring up the Writer Chips version. Still not that into the verses, but I prefer the rock and roll vibe with this. I'm also into the energy of the live version, where the cast sings a song. Excite, as well as several other Rider themes, are playable in the Taiko series. And I really hope no one thinks the I gotta believe line is a direct reference to Parappa the Rapper. Otherwise, I'll be coming out of your screen like a Nintendo commercial. You weirdo. Probably my most favorite piece of trivia is that this is the second Rider song to be performed on Kohaku Uta Gassen. If you're really into Rider, you might have seen this video of Shonen Yo, the Hibiki ending theme, being played on stage. That was part of Kohaku Uta Gassen, a show where a red team and white team perform songs and gain points. I at least love what Daichi Miura is doing here, and it's cool to see some Rider representation. And finally, there was a special edition release of the single that came with a gacha that would play the theme. There's also these X8 goggles. Okay, that's just cursed. I know that was a lot for one song, though I won't say much about the rest, so I'll just play a bit of them one after another. Pinpo Pell, sung by Uruka Matsuda. That's adorable. People Game, also by Uruka Matsuda. This is one of my favorite songs on the soundtrack. Real Game by Rayflower. Absolute banger. Let's Try Together by the Kamen Rider Girls. It's fine, I guess. Continuing with Kamen Rider Girls, Stormy Story, and Two Heart. Wait, I don't remember these in the show, at least not with the lyrics. Oh right, so the instrumentals were used and the vocal versions are only in the song collection. Kinda weird, but the instrumentals do fit the show better. Stormy Story is especially great. I love the bridge. And Two Heart is good. And lastly, by the Kamen Rider Girls from the main show, Time of Victory. I used this for the generic history of Kamen Rider opening long ago. Fantastic song, absolutely still love it. Wish in the Dark, and Justice by Hiroyuki Takumi. You probably weren't expecting Masamune's actor to sound like he was in a boy band, because he was. Takumi was part of the music group called Access, where he worked with Daisuke Asakura and later went to create some music for Kamen Rider Build. Asakura, not Takumi. Although Takumi did go to sing a certain insert theme in Build, but anyway. I'm personally not the biggest fan of Wish in the Dark, but I know it's a fan favorite, and it does have some great compositions. Justice, however, is fantastic. I had it as one of my favorite Rider songs ever, and it still is. I love it just as much as People Game. If you watch the show, maybe you've noticed Masamune humming Justice a couple of times in the show and movie. Justice. Speaking of movie, let's get to the music on this. First up, Battle Game, a collaboration between Rider Chips and Kamen Rider Girls. Yes, I love it just as much as you think I would, including the live version. Heisei Generations was so good that it got 2 vocal themes. Battle Game was for the action, Hikari is for the ending theme, performed by LOL. It's alright. I keep forgetting that the superhero Tyson movies have original vocal songs. Cho Tyson's is called Ray of Light by Monkey Magic. I like Monkey Magic, though I much prefer their upbeat music rather than the ballads. This one is nice, but again, I completely forgot it existed. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? And the last of our vocal themes for now is Life is Beautiful by Daichi Miura for True Ending. This is beautiful. Another one of my favorites from X8 as a whole. I especially like how it starts as a ballad, then explodes into the usual Daichi Miura style. As for X8's original soundtrack, it's very memorable. For better and for worse. I generally love it. If you don't see the video game motifs visually, you can definitely hear the inspiration with the music. The level 1 themes sound like old school NES chiptunes. Powered up forms and battle music in general feel something like out of the mid-2000s. You know, a bit of that edginess, but still really cool. The entire motif of the soundtrack has the biggest focus on electronics, more than even Kamen Rider Kabuto in build, plus a surprisingly big amount of piano. You might have heard this one a lot. Like I said earlier, they're great songs, though a bit overplayed. Yeah, sure, battle music and background music can all be considered overplayed to a point, but that piano is just such an earworm, you hear it once and it won't stop. I do love X8's music. Both in the original soundtrack, the vocal music, everything has been fantastic. So while we're on the topic of sounds, slight segue into the toys? I dabbled into the toys a bit earlier, but a lot more were released since the first arc, so let's get to those. The Bug Visor is an homage to handheld consoles like the Game Boy, but this one doesn't have a D-pad. It's okay. I know this was a fan favorite toy, but I personally don't like the execution of the idea, mostly because the chainsaw and blaster combo look a little dorky to me. I mean, I know, Kamen Rider is all dorky, but this one specifically is just even beyond the dorkiness that you already get from Kamen Rider. The sounds are fantastic though. Also fantastic is when you turn it into a driver. Its main use was for Dangerous Zombie. And man, that standby. Plus the Gasha jingles themselves are great. Did that jingle just say genocide? I can't believe I didn't bring up the game mascot, but each Gashat includes a little character, such as Mighty for Mighty Action X, and the others. I don't think they have official names, but if we want to go by Mighty's example, then Tattle Quest's mascot could be called Tattle, and Bang Bang Shooting's guy could be called Bang. That's not official, though it does sound kinda cool. These characters were at one point planned to be able to talk, and I'm glad that didn't happen. The Gacha Gear duels are a neat idea, like those game packs with 2 games in 1. Part of those games are both interesting, combining both puzzles and fighters, though he mainly sticks to Perfect Puzzle. Putting it into a gamer driver to make new sounds is a genius idea, as mentioned earlier how Gashats have programmed sounds that weren't in the show. The Dual Beta is the best example of this, since they're only ever used in the drivers and not standalone.
You all up! Enemy incoming! Shoot now! Get! Burn! Simulation! Satan up here! Tattle Fantasy!
All the Tattle game jingles are great, but once again, I think Taiga gets the short end. Cause Bang Bang Simulations in the driver sounds absolutely terrible. I much preferred standalone version. A weird shortcoming of the Gear duels is that they have these designs in the middle that shows the 2 forms, but you can't switch them so one form is always on top. Even if you're Snipe Bang Bang Simulations, the toy permanently shows Tattle Fantasy as the main design. Yeah, it's a small thing and really it doesn't matter in the end, but what if I want Taiga to top me? I don't really have much to say about Mighty Brothers XX. Catchy jingle, cool color scheme, moving on. I absolutely adore Maxima Mighty X. This hulking thing stands out so much on the driver, and normally I wouldn't like that, but with the big jingle to accompany it, and the little X8 being so cute, I just have to like this, just automatically. Plus, Gundam reference. What I adore even more is the Hyper Muteki Gashat. Well, not by itself, cause it looks weird, but combined with Maxima Mighty, yeah, from weird to cool. It's a mess, but a cool mess. The toy also comes with voice lines from Emma's actor. I think more DX toys should do that, and not just be saved for Memorial releases. There were a few silly toys that I never understood, but were made, like Kamen Rider Paradox's belt was sold separately. No, you silly goose, not a secret exclusive Paradox driver, I mean his literal belt used for the suit. I don't even think it does anything, but hey, you can have it. I mentioned the X8 goggles at one point, and it still kind of freaks me out. Here, look at this Poppy statue. This also freaks me out, but I kind of want it. Did you know even the darn stethoscope is a toy too? And you can even buy the doctor's IDs as separate merchandise? Okay, maybe Conrider is overstepping on the merchandise. Oh well, I'm not complaining. Back to some cool stuff. The Bugle Visor's Y is my favorite driver of the show. I know I just said the original isn't my favorite, but look at that shade of green. No one else is gonna like it but me, so of course it's my favorite. But what really sold me on it was the standby sound. Once I heard that, I knew I just had to have this. So I bought it. Poppy's gashat to transform is Tokimeki Crisis, which has 2 separate sounds for when she was evil for a moment and when she returned to Emu and friends. You can also tell the difference cause she gets red eyes. Although, she has another special gashat, Doremi-Fa Beat Poppy version. It's cute. I'm not sure where else to bring this up, but Ruka Matsuda has a Poppy picture book, which of course I have, still sealed. And inside are the usual picture book contents you'd expect. Some modeling, some fun pictures of Poppy cosplaying as past writer girls, but what does the back of this costume say? I don't know, Google it, or if you're watching this on YouTube, look at the screen. This is... Oh look, it's Taiga T-posing. One year after the main show, and following Dan Kuroto's disappearance, life continues on for Seito University Hospital, Cyber Rescue, and our cast. Except, Hiiro continues to be haunted by Saki. Is she real? Is this not a hallucination or a ghost from his past? Amagasaki Ren is back too, and it appears Saki is all over him. With the other writers preoccupied, and Saki returning being more personal to Taiga and Hiiro, it's up to them to figure out what's going on. This is the first of the Another Ending trilogy that came out in early 2018, a few months after X8 ended. It's such a great idea to have follow-ups on the main show that shares where our favorite characters have been, and an entire trilogy too, so certain characters, like Taiga, can get more story if they need it. Brave and Snipe is kinda weird though. Like, I thought we already moved past Hiro's grief of losing Saki. I get it, I'm sure he would have some lingering feelings, but didn't we have a whole arc about this already? Bringing it all back and fighting Taiga over her just seems redundant and a little mean-spirited. As a movie, this seems also all over the place. Nico's side plot is her deciding if she wants to move to America with some guy named Luke Kidman. Oh my god, I just understood why he's called Luke Kidman. Not even gonna touch on that. Meanwhile, Taiga and Hiiro butt heads because they both want to find out what Ren's plotting? Their fight scene was marketed heavily as they both seemingly have such a big clash of ideals that they have to duke it out. But it doesn't make sense to me. Like, am I missing something? What do you mean Taiga wants to murder Ren and to an extent Saki? Okay, it's not exactly like that, but it certainly feels like it. The main reasoning is that Taiga wants to be the one to resolve the crisis, but Hiiro wants more time to solve it himself. So, what's the issue? Why not just work together? Am I missing something? Didn't these guys just go through the entire Conrad Chronicle incident together and work on themselves with their own story arcs? They even just beat up Ren at the end together anyway, so what was the point? Okay, I'm gonna let you guys in a little secret here. There are times I get things wrong on purpose. Not major things, but I mean like small, tiny detail things that's like, oh, I missed it. Okay, well, I'll let the comments answer for me and I'll get more interactions that way. I'm gonna play the YouTube game, but not this time. Am I really missing something here? Like, am I wrong on this? The story to me seems a bit sloppy on paper, even messier in execution. Yeah, as you can tell, I didn't like this movie as a whole. It's probably the first of X8 side content that I wasn't looking forward to. But okay, what did I like? Hiro's flashback scenes with Saki are adorable. Kinda wish we had more of their relationship. The final scene of Saki and Hiiro saying bye one last time is really sweet. Though again, redundant when I thought we already had that closure. Taiga using Chronicle again is neat. Oh, the scene where he invites Poppy out for a talk but just steals her bug visor. Okay, that's funny. And I'm missing someone, aren't I? The big old Dan Kuroto in the room. Even though he's barely in the movie, we see that he's plotting something. He was the one who told Ren his evil plan. At the end, we see Taiga has seemingly lost his Chronicle Gashat and the bug visor, leading us to the end of the movie. As Emu said at the end of the show, the hospital will do their best to revive those who were lost to the Bugster incident. Someone who has a hand in helping is Dr. Saiko Yaotome. To do this, she makes a new game to, raise the Bugsters. So Saiko raises Poppy, and Emu raises Parado. Jeez, this is Paradox with Poppy. Definitely a step up from the previous movie, but still weird. Emu is out of commission, so Poppy and Parado are left to deal with Saiko's new game. For one, I actually like these two getting their own focus movie, and I do enjoy the movie, to a very long extent. If anything, I think this should have been the first movie of the trilogy, since the story makes so much more sense to start with. It continues on from trying to rescue people. Brave and Snipe touched upon it, but that's more of a character focus, when we really should have focused on the overall story. Anyway, the first part of Paradox with Poppy is really good on its own as a build-up. Saiko mysteriously did something to Parado, and we see she's working with Kuroto, while Poppy is tied up. Immediately interesting. Then seeing Emu and this Parado have fun together is kinda nice. On the other side of that is Saiko taking control of Poppy, and then it goes off the walls. I just love crazy stories like this. And there are a couple of admittedly small reveals here I enjoy, such as Saiko playing dress-up with Poppy using dresses from Dan Kuroto's mom. It's a bit morbid to get an emotional reaction out of her. Even crazier, okay, and this one's not minor, is that Saiko is the daughter of Michihiko Zaizen, Dr. Pac-Man himself. She is trying to revive her dad. But then the movie slows down in the second half when our Parado and Poppy actually have to fight who they call Black Parado. Henshin. It's a bit ironic saying the movie slows down during the action, but this isn't bad. I just don't think too much else happens when the first half was already so interesting. And a half-hearted lesson is thrown in here about Bugsters having hearts, unlike Black Parado being Data, and what? Where did this come from? The main show kinda had an arc like this about Bugsters being able to live their own lives, but, well, there is one thing I was holding back on. Of course, all of this was just part of Kuroto's grand plan. The amazing plan. His ultimate plan. Ren/Lovelika's revival. Saiko experimenting on the Bugsters. Masamune Dan coming back. And finally... Wait, why is Parado holding onto Poppy like that on the poster? The final game has begun. Kuroto has unleashed Zombie Chronicle all over the city, and the riders seem powerless to stop the infection. Is Kiriya riding himself? Kiriya confronts Kuroto, who reveals his ultimate Gashat, God Maximum Mighty X. He is level 1 billion. And did the jingle just say Kuroto Dan? Kiriya questions Kuroto's feelings after all the time spent with Emu and the others, but to Kuroto, it was just a game, even for those who are truly dead, which makes Kiriya understandably enraged, since his friend can't be brought back. During their argument, Masamune arrives, but not even pausing time can stop Kuroto, as Kuroto throws the damn moon at his dad. I love Tokusatsu. Shouldn't the world be destroyed with the moon? Okay, I'll stop. With that, Masamune is dead, and I'm sure we'll never see him again. One last wrap up with Taiga, as he sees Maki on a bench. Is this the real Maki brought back from the Bugster virus, or hallucination? And now, with a goodbye to Emu, Kiriya goes to face Dan Kuroto. Ew. The final battle begins, and ends on Umori Hill, where Kuroto killed Kiriya long ago. Kuroto and Kiriya's rider gauges deplete to 0. Dan Kuroto believed himself to be the smartest person in the world, but Kiriya says to leave the future to the doctors of today. They can change fate. Together. Kuroto's gashat is paving the way for future medicine. Sure wish the Hong Kong exclusive Exit comic was available to everyone. 3 years later, vaccines have been created for any previously known strain of the Bugster virus, so Seito University Hospital's Kamen Rider don't need to transform anymore. Aside from their regular duties as doctors, they continue to research to return those lost to the virus. One day, Emu and the other doctors have some casual conversation when it shifts to talking about their families. Hiro's family has always been well off and practically geniuses, while Kiriya tells some jokes about his own. When the topic turns over to Emu, he starts by saying his family is normal. This conversation almost seems to haunt him, until he receives a mysterious package with a new gashat, Mighty Novel X. Everyone knows this has to be some kind of Kuroto plot, but why is it here 3 years later? A new bugster appears from this game, calling himself Kuroto. The novel explicitly says that his name is even more shocking than Shin Dan Kuroto, so much so that an actual censored bleep sound is played. To beat Kuroto's game, Emu has to go through novel spots and reveal the truth of his own life. This is Mighty Novel X. It's one of the few fully fan-translated writer novels that you can find pretty easily online. But of course, I had to buy it and read it for myself. Starting off, I love this book. It might be the reader/writer in me, but it's already impressive seeing the written medium for Kamen Rider, since it has to be done so differently than the visual medium you're used to. The book is written in first person from several perspectives. You get to see the character's emotion more personally than before. The main perspective that I know everyone is going to enjoy is, ironically, Emu. Yeah, I know, it's kind of weird when I barely had anything to say about him, but I actually enjoyed reading his chapters. His inner thoughts give him way more personality. The funniest thing is how he sees everything like as part of a game, such as eating a hamburger meaning gaining 200 HP, or how family can count as a save file. Plus, we see his feelings towards Poppy, saying that she's cute and he loves hearing her laugh. It's beyond adorable, and something we can only read in a novel and not see directly through a show or movie. Emu goes through Mighty Novel X, where we learn about his past and his family. In one novel spot, Emu goes to his childhood home, and we get to read the letter he wrote to Kuroto. Afterwards, Emu gets a game over after making a wrong decision, so the rest of our cast try to save him. All of that was just the first chapter, and I won't go too much further in case you're interested in reading, but I'd say this captures some of the best moments and surprises in the series, even retroactively. Emu comes to terms that the car accident he was in maybe wasn't an accident after all, that he has other personal demons to come to terms with. And of course, Kuroto revealing Emu's father is actually... Again, reading through the perspectives of these characters is something I've always wanted. Of course, I get that not everyone wants to read, since writer is 99% of the time a visual medium, but if it's an incentive to you, the book is decently long and is pretty easy to understand, especially with the English fan translation out there. Although it does reference the main show and even movies very heavily, so be warned on that. I still think it's easy, mostly because, I did watch all of X-Aid, but do understand there are references to look out for. Unlocking the full power of Mighty Novel X, which is the most broken power in the entire of Kamen Rider, Emu transforms and is able to literally rewrite history. Like, this goes even beyond what Kamen Rider Saber can do.
Mighty Novel X! Mighty Novel, ore no yutori. Mighty Novel, ore no story.
Kuroto's plan is once again foiled, and life continues. The game never ends. With all that being said, are you ready? Join me next time as we build up for Kamen Rider Build.
Hello everybody, my name is Markiplier and welcome to 5 Nights.
Computer says you're fine. No problem here.